My husband, he was a foreman of 'em, and he could walk clear away and leave 'em, and when he come back, his work would go just the same. If we'd have a snow slide or a rock slide, the train would stop, and I'd get up 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to cook breakfast for 'em. Many times I've seen those men go out to work when it was 60 below zero and come in at night with their faces solid ice.
I remember coming to Colorado and having a lot of fears about it. I was very frightened of the mountains. It seemed to me that that was a very scary experience looking down out of the train. I was sick all the way over. I think it was mostly from fear that the train was going to fall off of the track in places. It was very scary to me coming from flat country and never having had ridden a train.
When you get up that canyon and over the divide, you have Fraser Canyon to tease you, and Byers Canyon to annoy you, and Gore Canyon to make you swear. What's on west, I have never seen. Drilling in hard rock was an art, requiring a strong back and not a little skill. I recall that we used to say that only a curly-haired Swede could drill blue granite, and none of us had ever seen a curly-haired Swede.
Back in the 20s and 30s and into the 40s, we'd go to Steamboat on the passenger train. One came in the afternoon and went out in the morning. You could ride from Sydney to Steamboat for 50 cents, and it took about half an hour or less. Quite often we rode the train. We used the railroad for transportation to and from school. Some of the Sydney teachers also used to get it to and from school. Farmers on weekends would use the railroad to ship their cream to Denver. The creamiers would buy it, test it, and send back the empty cans along with the checks.
We took a train that stopped at Steamboat Springs, and we came over Corona Pass over the Continental Divide. That was long before the Moffat Tunnel came to be. We sat on top of Corona. They had a big rotary plow plowing the track because wind would blow it shut overnight. They held the train there for 6 hours till they could get it plowed open. Then we came on to Steamboat Springs and took a wagon up to Clark. We got just above Clark 2 or 3 miles and transferred to a sled that went on to Hans Peak. It took 2 days to get to Hans Peak just from Steamboat.
I was on the first train to leave Steamboat. It was in January 1909. It cost us $22.50 to go to Denver.
The first train to run into Steamboat Springs that carried passengers was in 1909. There was a group of us school children who hired a man with a sled and a team to take us to Sydney. We met the train there so we could say that we rode into Steamboat on the first train, even though it was only that short distance. As we would look back through the car, the track was so unstable that the cars rocked back and forth. The tracks hadn't settled yet. It was a little while before they really got settled.
Tourists started to come on those first few trains. The ones I remember so distinctly were the people from Chicago that stayed at the Cabin Hotel in the summer. They would stay 2 or 3 months. They had to stay a while because it cost so much to get here.
When I was 6 years old, my folks went to the stock show. The only way was by train. That was before they opened the Moffat Tunnel. We had went over Corona, over the top, and got stranded up there. The wind had blown the track shut. That's really rugged up there when it storms. They got stuck up there with that train. We were 3 days on the train from here to Denver. I remember they ran out of food and water.
My dad told me when he would ride cattle trains to Denver in the caboose that the train curved so much that you could shake hands with the engineer when he came around the corners.
I can remember the train ride when the railroad had just been completed. They used to give us all rides from Yampa down to almost Phippsburg. I remember that everyone used to get a big thrill from the ride. The only reason that they let us all ride was mainly for the publicity. Everyone would ride because at that time, that was a big thing. I recall that the train was nothing like the trains of today. Then it only had 2 or 3 coaches.
When I get to hell, I'll have more seniority over everybody because nobody has ever shoveled as much coal as I have.